Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scenes, Subplots, and Side Quest podcast. Just some friends talking about some nerdy stuff. And today, I am one of your humble hosts, Joshua Awesome, here with one of my buddies.
Chris, CKJ, how's it going, everybody?
All right. It is the first of the month, and we missed last week because Thanksgiving got the best of some of us, and that was me. I just had a lot to cook, had a lot to do, and wasn't able to do it. We were gonna try and do our monthly comic book roundup at the end of the month, but I guess we'll just keep going at the first of the month. Talk about all the November reads that we had with DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and our favorite manga picks. And we're also going to talk about a couple of things. A video game we're really excited about called The Godslayer, and uh, we're going to start off our conversation today with the Netflix potential buyout of Warner Brothers Studios, and what that might mean for James Gunn, DC properties moving forward, and what our thoughts on it are. And then we'll talk about our DC comic lineup, where we're going to talk about, the Absolute Universe, and we'll talk about we're going to be adding DC Knockout to our reading list, which we'll talk about next month. The new year, essentially, crazy.
Yep,
It feels like
just
years already flown
went by
by,
quick.
right? And we're going to talk about our Marvel reads, which include
Mm,
the Ultimates, a lot of the X-Men properties, and stuff like that, and Spider-Man properties. But let's talk about something that just got announced, what, like less than 24 hours ago, Chris?
yep.
The Netflix buyout of Warner Brothers Studios. Now, I know that there's been a circulation of a buyout of Warner Brothers Studios for a while, but it looks like Netflix has won. Netflix is tying up their properties right now with Stranger Things, and they had their success with K-pop Demon Hunters, so they're
Yep.
trying to look towards the future.
Mm,
And they bought out DC Studios, essentially, which is owned by Warner Brothers, and what we think that might mean for James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are currently heading DC Studios together. Um, so, Chris, when you heard about this, what did you think? Or what are your initial thoughts?
I thought it was a prank, honestly. I thought somebody was punking me, making up a YouTube, thumbnail, just saying like, "Ha, April Fools." But looking into it, I thought it was, still a joke. And then reading it, I'm like, "Oh, damn, this can actually happen." I
Yeah,
don't know if it's going to be a good thing or bad thing. Like if they like, hey, hands off and let the creators do what they want without going too crazy, then I feel like, it could have, great implications. And if they, have too much hands on the creative decisions, then, it could definitely ruin a lot of the DC projects they have coming out. I just hope they give James Gunn the benefit of the doubt and let him, do his thing. Because Superman was pretty successful, a little bit more successful than the Fantastic Four. And, I'm just hoping that no matter what happens, we still get some good movies out of it.
yeah. I have some mixed feelings, right? Because when we look at some properties like K-pop Demon Hunters, that really took off, really did
Oh
like
yeah.
really really well, right?
Yep.
Um, but and like One Piece did really well. Well, they're doing a really good job at One Piece, but they did like not do a good job with what was the other anime they tried to do? Oh my gosh, Cowboy Bebop. They didn't do a good job
Wait.
with Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, the live adaptation one. Yep,
Yeah,
that
the
one
live
was pretty.
adaptation of
Oh,
Cowboy Bebop.
they
They
also did Death Note.
yeah, that's not a good track record either, right?
Nope.
So when I think about it, I mean like Netflix and look at The Witcher.
Oh yeah, The
You
Witcher. It
know,
was good, and then it just kind of, from what I've heard, and just down the
yeah,
toilet.
but that's a lot of that is like the creatives and producers at Netflix kind of fumbling the bag with a lot of these properties.
Hmm.
Like that's what that is to me. And like hopefully with One Piece, that's an indication that they learned from Death Note and Cowboy Bebop, right? Uh,
Exactly.
in their live action adaptation. The Avatar: The Last Airbender wasn't bad. Was it the best? No. Was it as good as the animated? I don't think so, personally. But was it better than the majority of stuff that got remade? Yeah, man. Like it's better than the movies.
Right,
If
right.
my nieces, nephews, cousins were more into live action than animation, I would get them into Avatar through that. I think it's still a good medium for it. You know what I mean? So there's some good storytelling that can be done at Netflix. But does this mean that the next Superman movie is just going to be able to be streamed from Netflix? Like, is Netflix trying to
Mm.
get into the theater? And because there's like,
Oh,
a thing with certain streaming services and the content they make where it might not be up for the same awards as other theatrical film releases, right? So what
right.
does that mean for the greater scope of Netflix? Because it's not just DC, right? It's all
Hmm.
of Warner Brothers.
Yep.
So that includes a lot of other properties that could be affected by that. What does that mean for maybe Warner Brother properties that are from other comic book franchises or properties, right? Like what do they own, and how does that affect the movies? Like, how would you feel, Chris, if Superman 2 was released same day on Netflix as theaters? Does that make you excited to go to the theaters? Would you still go to the theaters, or would you just watch it on Netflix? Like, to me, theater is an
Yeah,
experience, and part of the experience is seeing it first, seeing it
exactly.
before other people can just stream it.
Yeah, because I mean, you get the whole, not like you said, experience. So you get the large theater, you get the large sound, and then you get the really overpriced, expensive soda and popcorn. And then just, taking your family or special ones to go see it, it's just like, wow. Like, I still remember the day when I went to go watch Endgame for the very first time, right?
Yeah.
Theater, watching it, it was just a whole different experience. Like, you couldn't get that while watching it from home if it was streamed the same day because you'd be distracted with everything else around you.
Or you
So,
would need to get all your homies. You know what I mean?
oh
Like
yeah,
I
exactly.
remember Endgame. Like there's certain movie experiences that I remember. The original Jurassic Park scene with the Tyrannosaurus
Oh,
Rex, the cup of
yeah.
water, and like an entire audience gasping at the same time. Like I was a kid when that was released, essentially. Like that was a key moment when in Endgame,
Yep.
when the hammer moves and the
Oh,
crowd erupts. Like there were
goes
multiple
crazy.
of those moments throughout the Marvel cinematic universe, right?
Yep.
Like we
Yep.
had that with the portals opening, with Cap saying Avengers
Thank.
Assemble. We
Oh, that
had
was so
that with
good.
the introduction of Into the Spider Verse. Well, not Into the Spider Verse, but in Homecoming with
Oh,
Andrew
Peter
Garfield Spider
Parker.
Man, and then Toby. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yep.
Like seeing those in theaters was wild. Black Panther
Oh
had
yeah,
that.
that
You know
was.
what I mean? Like
Yep.
there's something about a rowdy theater, and not even rowdy, just like respectfully reacting,
Oh yeah.
like
Like, I remember the first time I went to go see the very first Avengers movie. Well, watching that with my nephews and cousins, and we just saw Thanos for the first time, and the theater lost it. They're like, "Holy crap, it's Thanos!" I was like, "Oh my god, that is Thanos! What the hell?" That was that was mind-boggling.
dude. And we would always run into Salvatore, one of our homies, that's his handle, but like we would always run
Yeah.
into him and his family at the same movies because we'd all be going
Exactly.
at the same time, but he was going with his family, we were going with our group of friends,
Oh yeah.
way too like those are always such good times. It's and that's the thing, it's like that experience, right? You can kind of have a Netflix watch along, like don't get me wrong, when Game of Thrones was a huge thing and The Walking Dead, when in those early seasons, my friends and I, so I lived in Baltimore and I was at one townhouse unit and we had another townhouse unit on the other end that was being rented by another group of college kids around our age. And we became friends. And then we started watching those shows with each other. We would make a big night of it. We would buy food, make snacks, and like it became like a ritualistic thing where every like Sunday Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. So it was like there is that aspect which is kind of cool, but that's really cool. I think for like a TV thing like this, like going to the movies, I think it's like that was the whole point. Is it would just be like this nice 2 hour, 3 hour spectacle. You get your popcorn,
Yep.
you lean back, get good sound, try and get the
Oh
premium
yeah.
seats where you're like in the middle. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it just going to the theaters and watching something iconic happen is just so fun. I remember watching the very first Spider-Man movie, not the, Andrew Garfield one, but the Sam Raimi one, and then watching Spider-Man 2 in the theaters. Watching that was some great experiences you'll ever see in theaters, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. So what does that mean for I guess that's like one of the biggest things to try and like think about or to ponder as to the future. Like are they even going to keep James Gunn? What if they're like, "Oh, sorry, we have our own vision when we bought you guys about what we want our DC universe to be." And you're like,
Yep.
"Oh no," you know?
Yeah.
Like
Like, I think if they keep James Gunn, I feel like they'll be very successful because he has some good ideas and introduce new life into Superman than, other previous iterations. So hopefully they don't do that, but seeing how well they butchered some other shows, like you mentioned, does leave one to be quite scared and skeptical.
yeah, man. What if like we get another Witcher treatment where they're just like, well, Batman is now from Krypton and Superman's the normal person who just has a super soldier serum. We found out that Captain America was pretty popular, so we wanted to be like that. You know what I mean? Like just a bunch of suits making decisions based off of numbers about money and not about like the story or the history. That's
Man,
what
if they
terrifies
did,
me.
yeah, that is quite the unfortunate situation if that was to be true. I would feel bad for DC because they already climbed up pretty well out of their hole of terrible movies and like, oh yeah, they're decent. And then just watching them go back down to the mud, not fun.
Well, and it's funny when we talk about like good and horrible movies or bad movies, just the level of movies have escalated so high in terms of like there can be really good indie movies that don't even need special effects, and then you have these like billion-dollar blockbusters that can potentially break studios or lose so much money.
Oh yeah.
Even like the Fantastic Four wasn't a bad movie, but there's so many other good movies that it's so easy to pick apart the flaws in certain movies. Like to me, I think
Hmm.
it like Superman was a stronger film than the Fantastic Four,
Right.
but the Fantastic Four wasn't bad. You know
No,
what I
no,
mean?
no.
Like I look back on it, I'm like, it was actually an entertainingly fun movie. Like I think it should have
Yeah.
gotten chopped up into two separate movies, but they have limited time because there's dead press on this Doctor Doom insert, and it's like I hope he's not a placeholder villain either.
Nah, I hope not.
Where it's just like it just has to have it needs to have an impact.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Like I feel like the really good impact in that movie was, Galactus being introduced for the first time. He was menacing, huge impact, They should have kept that going, but
They
still
should have
good though.
ended the first movie with them meeting Galactus, honestly.
Oh yeah. That
You
would have
know what
been
I
really
mean?
sick.
Yeah. But yes, Netflix buying out Warner Brothers Studios. Uh, who knows how it's going to go? Who knows if it's going to be a good thing for DC comic fans? I never pitted myself against other comic book readers. I liked DC and Marvel comics. I guess diehards would peg me as a Marvel comic person, but I mean, I'll read most DC comics. There aren't any DC things that I'm like, I'm just not really too much interested in that, except for maybe, I mean, same thing with the Marvel side, like the Magic stuff. The lowest on my priority list is probably Doctor Strange material, and he's got a lot of comics out now.
Good
So
to
let's
know.
go ahead and talk about some of our video game news. We're going to talk a little bit about Godslayer. I would love to bring
Yep.
up the Avatar: The Last Airbender video game as well, the fighting game that's
Yeah.
coming out. And they also showed clips of the Invincible fighting game, but I didn't prepare you for that. So I'm just bringing that up right now. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
No worries.
but let's talk about Godslayer, dude. You sent me this clip today. You're like, have you heard about this game? And I'm like, I haven't checked it out yet. And man, was I
No.
impressed. What are your thoughts on the gameplay trailer? I watched almost the entire 9 minute. So I went from the short into the actual video, and I started looking at the world and stuff. Chris, what are your thoughts initially on Godslayer? What makes you
I
excited?
My initial thoughts are this is the kind of Avatar: The Last Airbender we should have gotten, in my opinion, at some time
Mm,
throughout its existence. Um, for anyone who doesn't know, pretty much these godlike entities create these humans, and over time, these humans have learned to master elemental powers, and now they're pissed and want to get rid of them. And our main
godlike
protagonist,
turtles.
ooh, that's very funny. um, but these main protagonists, his family was killed by these so-called gods. Now he's on a task for revenge, and he is
Of
pretty much like the
course.
Avatar. He uses all elements of bending. Like he'll make like a giant stone wall to block fire and then shoot it out. And I'm like, dude, how freaking cool is that? That's just like an RPG Avatar: The Last Airbender style game, and overall, it looks really good.
Yeah, I like the time period where it's kind of like this steampunk industrial influence. I think all the animations look sick. I want to know
Oh
what the
yeah.
combat feels like.
Hmm.
Just because I've been fooled by gameplay trailers before on what could be good. So hopefully, I mean, it looks exactly like you would want a game that you're a master of the elements for, right?
Oh yeah,
Like
easily.
the way you control the earth, the fire, the water, is really cool. I didn't see any wind stuff, so I don't know if maybe that's how it's going to set itself apart from Avatar like world. You know what I
Well,
mean?
because
Go
I
ahead.
feel like that might have to be because in one of the scenes he slams water, but then uses that to create ice, and I'm not sure if air would be part of that, but that would be pretty cool if it would have some air elements.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, this reminds me of what Power World did for Nintendo and Pokemon. You're like, all right,
Oh
so this
yeah.
is kind of like a little upgrade of the same old that we're used to. But I mean, speaking of Avatar, the Avatar: The Last Airbender game, like a lot of the content creators I follow have gotten into, well, not a lot, the fighting game content creators I follow got into like the beta of that, and man, it looks good, it looks fluid. They have some, I think, AI or some UI things to work out, maybe make it look a little bit better, and fix some menus and aesthetics and stuff like that. But man, that game looks pretty cool. I've seen a lot of Zuko gameplay right now. I need to check out people playing like Katara and Aang. But I'm an enjoyer of fighting games. I'm a little older now. I'm not like big up on competitive scenes or whatnot. I think the last fighting game I played was Mortal Kombat One, the new one. Um, I need to play. I need to play Street Fighter and Tekken. Uh, but my game was always Soul Calibur. That was like
Oh
my big game.
yeah.
What did you, what have you seen of the Avatar fighting game?
I saw the clip originally where you can introduce support characters to your main character and change up their fighting style. And that looked pretty cool because I've played Dragon Ball Fighter Z and I played the new Dragon Ball Z game, and they all kind of not necessarily want to say they all play the same, but they kind of have the same feeling, if that makes any sense. Like
Yeah,
you dash, you fight, you shoot key blast. Whereas this one, you can have the same character and play it like three different ways, kind of like you were
yeah.
mentioning before. So that does give you, new playing styles to fight somebody. So like if you're fighting somebody and they're really good, you're like, cool, let me switch it up and try to catch them off guard. You can do that in that type of game, right? If they're spamming one move or if they keep getting you combos, you can switch that up and boom, start dominating them, right? Which I don't think off the top of my head too many games can do that type of gameplay. You know what I mean?
What um what character do you hope is in the game? I mean, we know there's four, but give me what have you seen Korra? Have you seen like the full Korra series?
I know enough about core to know exactly what happened from beginning to end, but there is
I
that
want you to give
one.
me a character from Korra and a character from Aang's era.
The one from Korra, he's the well, there's two from Korra. The one who can steal energy, like Aang can,
Oh, you want
and
a
then
Mon.
I want the guy who like sucks the air out of people's lungs to kill that Earth
Zahir.
Nation
You
ruler.
want Amon and Zahir.
Yup,
Those
I
would
want
be
those two.
but those are two bad guys in it.
But Zuko was a bad guy reformed to a good guy.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that they would need a balance because so
Oh,
from Korra's era, I want Bolin, man. Give me that lava bending, dude.
oh,
I
okay.
want
Lava
lava
bending's pretty
bending
cool.
Bolin. I don't want no pre lava bending Bolin. Like, give me lava bending Bolin. He's the goat of that series, in my opinion. He's always coming in clutch. He can have what's his name as one of his support people. Uh, what's his name? Jolie, do the thing. That
Oh,
guy, maybe even Julie or his beau. What's her name? Violet. I think.
I, yeah.
Toph's grandchildren, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
his little fire ferret.
That would be pretty cool.
Um,
Um,
and then from Aang's era, gotta have Zuko or not Zuko. Gotta have Sokka, dude. If they don't have Sokka because
yeah.
he's not a bender, I'm gonna be pissed.
I feel like, we could have Sokka in there. And I think I mentioned to you earlier, we could have Ty Lee as one of those, assist characters for like Azula or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I know this is kind of a weird one, but I would like to see a swamp bender. The one who controls the swamp and makes like the giant golem looking thing.
I
That
could
could
see
be
them
pretty
being a
fun.
support character for like Katara or something, like or a support
Oh,
character for somebody else.
I want one support character to be the cabbage guy, just yelling my cabbages.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that would be, or he be part of a level.
Oh, that would be so good. Uh, but yeah, I would say the guy who shoots laser or the little eye beam from his eye from the
Yeah.
original Avatar, he could be
Oh,
pretty
see,
cool.
I'm a sucker for like some of the OG. I want Boomy. You know,
Oh, Boomy, yeah,
I
he would be
want
real
Boomy.
cool.
Like, I'm assuming we're definitely gonna have Toph. Like,
Oh yeah,
we're
Toph
gonna
is
have
for
Toph,
sure.
right? But dude, we
Oh,
can't. We better not have Sokka as like a side support character for like Toph or Katara. Like, Sokka better be one of the playable characters, man.
I'm not sure if they would make this character a side one or his own character, but Iroh, I think would be really cool, shooting flames from his mouth like he did in that one episode.
Yeah, Iroh might be a support character for Zuko though.
Yeah, I know it's more unlikely
But
what's
he
going to
oh,
happen,
he would
but
be a really good there's the problem is even the support character choices, some of them could just be like main character fighters, you know?
oh yeah, easily. God, that would be cool. Or maybe even like the twin spirits from the first book of Avatar in the nation could be a support character too. Switch up
Right.
water style bending.
Or yeah, the moon. You just the map permanently has the moon up and it's what's her face?
Oh, yeah. Or the bloodbender. That could be cool.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our comic book roundup, our monthly reads that we were going over. We'll do manga for last because I feel like we have a lot of really dope comics that have come out since our last Let's go ahead and dive into DC Comics. And why don't we jump into Superman? And why don't we
Yeah,
have you start off with Superman and what your thoughts were? I know that's your main read, and I'll go through all my and our shared reads. But what did you think of Superman?
it was pretty cool actually. So it takes place after Ra's al Ghul's army is descending upon Smallville, and all the civilians, you think they would run away, right? But now they stand their ground with Superman. They're like, hey, Superman, if you're gonna fight, I'm gonna fucking fight too. And they have their guns ready. And again, I'll say this before I go into further, spoiler alert, because there is something cool that happens at the end of the book that, if you don't want to spoiled, just be warned. um but he goes in, he starts fighting the entire army, throwing tanks, beating up mechs, ripping them in half. And as they're
Being
on
a
fire, he like,
Superman,
exactly, Man of Steel, if you will. And then he like saves even the peacemakers. But one of the things he actually does in the comic is his cape. I'm not sure if you know, but it's like an
an
artificial
AI.
AI,
Yeah,
and he has it make a what's that word? I'm like his solitude of his palace
Fortress of
of
Solitude.
solitude, fortress of solitude. Thank you. Around the entire Smallville area, and he's fighting it, and then next thing you know, Brainiac hacks the shit out of his cape and starts destroying his AI soul. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. He's still going fighting.
Always, dude. Brainiac's always like that, huh?
Yeah, he was creepy too. He's like, you're never gonna win, you're gonna fall, you're gonna be just as evil as the rest of us, trying to get him down to that level. Because previously, Superman accepted the fact that he's more human than he likes to be, being the fact that he has to socialize like a human does, even though he doesn't want to, right? Because even though he's Superman, he still needs that social aspect like he
Right.
did on his homeworld. But he's fighting, and the coolest portion of this fight is he's starting to fight Ra's al Ghul, and in the panel, he has like a giant greatsword made out of kryptonite that's swirling like an anime effect. And he's just hovering about Superman. He's like, "You're gonna listen to me, and you're gonna be begging to be my son." And I was like, "Holy crap, that is freaking cool!" Like, I don't think I've ever seen a kryptonite sword, but, I'm glad that I've been able to see it because it's badass.
Yeah, man. I mean, that would be a weakness for Superman. A kryptonite sword sounds like something a Batman alternate universe would have.
Oh, easily. But yeah, I'm just interested to see what the next issue takes it to. Like, is he gonna die? Is he gonna start cutting him up and making him be his son, or Superman gonna find some kind of MacGuffin to get him out of this by using the people of Smallville, you know?
Right. Awesome. Well, next on the absolute, why don't we go to the inverse? Let's talk a little bit about Batman. I know that's something we've both been reading. You
Yes.
know, in Batman, and I'm going through the Go, so the app, because they're episodic, whereas the comic book issues are a little differently numbered. But Absolute Batman number 32 and 33, we get to see a little flashback with Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne, which Selena Kyle's like Catwoman traditionally in the Batman universe, and they're kind of talking about Waylon and Waylon's fight, and
Hmm.
Catwoman's basically trying to say that she'll be there to try and help Bruce. She kind of comments on his scars and the experiments on in Bruce because it's after his stint in Arkham.
Oh.
And at the end of the comic, he kind of confronts this version of Harley Quinn, who
Oh
is the
yeah.
leader of the Red Hood gang, right? And
Hmm.
the next issue, we cut to like Bane talking to the Doctor. Batman takes control of the television transmission and basically calls out Bane, and we kind of
Oh yeah.
flash back to Waylon's fight, um, and cuts back to like Bruce in the sewers. Uh, Looks like he's kind of conversing or talking with Waylon, right?
Yep.
Um, and that's that the end of that. But then it goes into the Batman annual, the annual number one. where we kind of
Yeah.
get to see what we've been wanting to see this entire time.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was a crazy annual one, I will say. I was not expecting that comic to be the way that it was.
Yeah, man. Where Batman essentially is going, and in this, it's kind of like a prelude to his fight with Bane,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
he just goes and beats down some racists, and has a conversation with the priest, and the priest at the end of the comic we learn that's a dude in the photo with his father.
Yeah, and the I don't want to say the worst, but the most heartbreaking thing of this is like we keep getting cutbacks to Bruce and his father, like when he's a boy,
Yeah,
and he's like, I know, some things may be tough and, sometimes, you may see some very horrible things from people, but Bruce, I know there's good in you and I know you'll always do the right thing. And there's that constant message of his father telling him he believes in him and, he believes in the better of humanity. And then at the end of the comic book, he just kind of just breaks down remembering what his father told him, like, hey, I will always believe you and love you. And I was like, damn, he just kind of betrayed everything his father, told him. I was like, that's crazy.
yeah, because he kind of like, I mean, he's definitely a brutal Batman. You know,
Oh
he's definitely
yeah.
a Batman that doesn't have a Robin. That's for sure.
Yeah, dude,
Uh,
like when how crazy was it when that guy was about to say, white power while doing that salute? He just breaks that guy's elbow the other way, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's disgusting."
every salute has a weakness.
It does, and that Batman found it real quick. And
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
that
I
Batman was brutal.
I love the gritty art that they chose for like
Hmm.
the absolute universe. I think Superman probably has the most comic booky
Yep.
art, whereas Batman's super exaggerated,
Hmm.
and Wonder Woman kind of like a lot of the art can change based off of like the flashback too, which is what I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and then like I was trying to like catch up on things, just we're not jumping into Marvel, but the Marvel Ultimate X-Men has the most manga like art.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but let's not jump into Marvel just yet. That was Absolute Batman. We've also both been reading Absolute Wonder Woman. This ends on issue number 12, where we get to see the fight between Wonder Woman and Clea, who is this trapped Atlantean. We get to see some of the magic trickery that Wonder Woman has as she like casts a spell on a rock to lead everybody out and bust a way out and then fill the maze up with water.
Yep.
Um, and we have Io, who the moment she's freed gets teleported back to Themyscira and lets the Amazons know that Deanna's alive. And then we get to
Hmm.
see a bunch of different experiments at the end,
Oh yeah.
as they're trying to capture Wonder Woman, and they release what we see as Absolute Zatanna. What were your thoughts on Absolute Wonder Woman?
I thought it was really good. I just like how Wonder Woman not only just fights with her brute strength, but she's also really more clever than I feel like than her normal, Wonder Woman trope is. She just like heads on, beats them, done. She just outthinks them. She uses like magic to actually aid her and to trick her
Yeah,
enemies, like the Trident, right? I was not expecting her to use the Trident to, fight back or it being able to talk back, which was kind of crazy.
it
Um,
was Poseidon's
so
trident.
yeah, which, I didn't know it could talk to people. Maybe it might be an absolute thing, but that was actually, really cool to see her use more of her brains than her bronze. Well, let me rephrase that. She uses her brains as much as she uses her brawn,
Yeah.
which, I'm glad to see more of that.
Well, and what I think is cool is a lot of times they go through flashbacks and they explain how she's going to overcome this challenge based off of previous challenges that she's overcome, where
Hmm.
she's had to, had to charm a monster instead of beat it up, or make a
Yep.
deal with a monster, and stuff like that. So it shows the trials and tribulations that she went through and how that relates to the challenges she's overcoming now. Which we
Exactly.
also see in Absolute Wonder Woman number 13,
Oh yeah.
where she's kind of fighting. I mean, she's fighting this figure. It starts out more action packed with like things going on globally around the world, and it starts connecting the pieces between Absolute Superman, um, Absolute Flash, and Absolute Batman.
Hmm.
And we already kind of got that with the kind of like the Absolute Justice League of Villains thing, or
Yeah.
something like that. It wasn't on our reading list, but it was. I still read it. But it's like she's fighting something, but it turns out that it is kind of like the backlash of her magic and her
Yep.
being, and
Yep.
she ends up having to kind of like strike a deal. Not strike a deal. She ends up knowing that it's like her,
Yep.
like a version of herself, essentially.
Yeah. Kind of like you use all this great power, but there's a cost to all this great power that you use.
Exactly. It's like the backlash.
Yep.
She ends up defeating it, but then gets caught up by Zatanna,
Crazy.
right? So, um, I might be jumping ahead because I have read ahead of the digital form, but man, what I love about this is they're really tying Wonder Woman to mythology in such a great way.
Oh yeah, I like her being like a part of a witch, learning those ancient crafts, and
Yeah,
I want to see how well she handles Zatanna, or sorry, Absolute Zatanna. Like, does she speak normally, or does she still speak backwards? When she casts spells,
right.
or you know, is she gonna be stronger than Wonder Woman in magic, while Dana still just has her brute strength? So, I'm interested to see how that battle goes.
And have you been reading Absolute Flash and Green Lantern, or was it just Flash?
I have known a little bit of more about Flash and the Green Lantern. Um,
Okay. So in Absolute Flash, we go through issues 7 and 8, and we see uh Wally essentially, one of the downsides of being a speedster is they inhale food. They have to eat a lot of calories because of how much calories they burn from running. So he tries to rob a convenience store, but ends up passing out because he needs food. And then we cut to Colonel West, his dad, and Thawne. And Thawne is kind of holding Colonel West hostage. Then we cut to the Rogues. They free Wally um, from the prison, give him some nourishment. They fight, I think it's Weather Wizard, the absolute Weather Wizard, and he ends up defeating him. And then, he's like, I'm not going back. And the Rogues are like, we're not going back either. Do you want to join us? And now he's teamed up with the Rogues. Um,
yeah.
and then in the next issue, they flash back to young Barry meets Thawne for the first time. And this is not Eobard Thawne. This is his like granddaughter, who's the present day Thawne, and offers a way for Barry to continue his research because he's teaching because he lost all of his research um, due to lost funding. We kind of go
Ooh.
back in time and see Eobard Thawne experimenting with the Blue Trinity, and has Captain Jay Garrick there. So they're kind of name dropping some of the alternate counterparts in the Absolute. And there's an accident. We don't know what really happens to them. I'm wondering, there's a figure that kind of keeps popping up. But 2 years after Thawne and Barry started working together, Barry then meets Colonel West, and then is kind of upset that he has to even help the military because he doesn't want to make weapons. He wants to continue his research. And that's where he
Right.
meets Wally West. They kind of bring some soldiers into uh, the experiment that's very similar to the one that uh Ubarthon did, and they're in another world in another dimension that's like all red. Which
Oh.
we would think might be this. maybe version of the Speed Force,
Okay.
or even maybe it's a connection to Darkseid and
Oh,
Apocalypse. Who knows? But Barry gets a vision of like a future person, and the rogues are kind of just gone rogue essentially. But Absolute Flash is kind of tying in this dimension, which doesn't seem like the traditional Speed Force.
interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it might be like a Speed Force time combination type of deal, because you know that would make a little bit more sense with him going past, present, and then back to the future or wherever he
Well,
goes.
there's times where I think he's experiencing time kind of out of place, where he's seeing the future in the present, or vice versa. He's kind of experiencing time all at once.
That's too much to handle.
And then the absolute Green Lantern's getting uh crazy in the fact that we're learning a little bit more about the different Green Lanterns. Do you know who Kilowog is in the Green Lantern mythos?
Yeah, he's the guy who always goes Poozer, and he's like the guy who trains a lot of Green Lanterns.
Yeah, he's kind of like the drill sergeant that trains the Green Lanterns. In the Absolute universe, it looks like he's a Black Lantern.
Oh,
Which is it
that's not good.
seems like a little bit different than we went over kind of like the power structure, but there's different levels of like focus, restraint, and will or whatever within that, and each color spectrum is supposed to kind of represent, I guess, the understanding of Oa and whatnot. But Kilowog is fighting three Green Lanterns. It looks like he's a Black Star or a Black Lantern. I'm not 100% sure at this moment, but he's fighting these Green Lanterns. He ends up winning
Damn.
against the Lanterns. The Lanterns were all like, I guess, trained in the program. I'm gonna call the Green Lantern like society like this program, because the current lanterns and another lantern were kind of trained outside of it, so they don't have the same restraints that these Green Lanterns do. But Kilowog is met by a Red Lantern, and this Red Lantern is the absolute Tomar, which he's a Green Lantern in the main universe. Both Kilowog and Tomar are different. He ends up trapping Kilowog in a box and then shrinking the box down till
Oh,
he's nothing but goo, and then
uh,
sends the box to whoever I guess is Kilowog's master.
dear Lord, that's intense.
And he kind of teases the power of gold, like a gold lantern or a yellow lantern. And we get to then go back to Earth, and we see cutbacks of Sojourner, who is like the current Green Lantern. We get to see her kind of backstory growing up in this small town. Um, with her dad. Uh, she becomes a cop. She finds out that the chief of police is kind of corrupt, but everybody is okay with it. One of her peers kind of leaves. They seem to have some sort of possible romantic connection, but Sojourner doesn't quite
Oh,
know herself. She quits and leaves for Coast City. She gets more comfortable with herself, starts dating this girl. They end up getting married. It's the blonde girl,
oh,
Cam, who happens to be in other DC properties. She's kind of like the Amanda Waller of this world.
oh,
Um, but with Cam's devotion to work, she's not really there. She reconnects with Renee Montoya, who's the coworker that left, who in the main DC universe is the Question, and
oh,
they have an affair, and then she ends up they ended up getting divorced. She ends up going back to her ex-wife with Hal Jordan, who is corrupted with his own black energy, black lantern energy, esque energy, and her with the Green Lantern energy. But they're not bound by the thought processes of, like, I guess Oa in this, or the philosophy of Oa, and they can kind of explore the powers in greater strength or detail because they're not
mm,
thinking in terms and being trained like the, I guess, current set of Green Lanterns. Interesting take on the Green Lantern mythos.
yeah. I was gonna say that sounds way more like not. like intense, but like more thought out, like because their powers are based on the spectrum of emotion in the normal DC. So having that whole power structure is definitely a fresh breath of air, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting how I guess Darkseid would try and remake an emotional spectrum when he's trying to kind of make hope kill hope and stuff like that, whereas the lanterns and their willpower kind of one of the green one of the blue lanterns are hope, right? So how would you kind of like squash that or reimagine that in a world
Well,
where he's trying to do power first?
I feel like maybe instead of like getting rid of hope, he's making the heroes or people who believe in hope work extra harder for hope to be a viable power. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
instead of
hope
just
is
being
not
like,
easy in
oh
this world.
no, it's it'd rather be easier to die than try to hope. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but it's interesting, dude. I'm loving the absolute we were talking about this earlier before the pod, but I feel like DC has doesn't have as many books out as Marvel, but the quality of their books are generally pretty good. Whereas I think
Oh
Marvel
yeah,
has a lot of books, so many books that not all of them can be bangers, you know.
true, very true.
Let's go ahead and jump over to Marvel Comics now, Chris, and let's talk about
Sweet.
some of our Marvel reads. Why don't you start out with Phoenix, and then I'll talk about some of the X-Men.
Sure. So with Phoenix, pretty much we come back to Cable. Blastin does what he does, telling Jean like, "Hey, what you're doing with your sister is just a fragment of the Phoenix Force. She's not real. She's an imaginary person brought to life with your power, and that's destabilizing the universe." She's like, "No, that's not true." He's like, "Here, follow me." He takes her to Earth in the future where it's like zombie animal creature monsters are just running around trying to kill everything, and he's just trying to tell her like, hey, you can't keep doing this because your instability is gonna destroy the universe. And that's my whole thing, is stopping the universe from being destroyed because of people making mistakes in the past. And as he's talking about that, we transition back to Jean's sister Sarah, and they're trying to track Jean, like, hey, where did he take her? We need to find her.
Yeah,
And as they're trying to find her, the cosmic entity, the in betweener, finds Sarah and's like, hey, you're like imaginary but real, and you're real but not. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, what I'm trying to say is that you're real and not real. And she's just trying to figure out what's going on. And she yells, and she feels, Jean feels Sarah using the power of the Phoenix because they're connected that
yeah,
way.
because she's
And
born of
then
the Phoenix's power. Yeah, yeah,
and then when it continues to the next issue 13, we have more of the Phoenix coming to terms with the fact that she created Sarah out of, Jean Grey's memories, and it's all Jean Grey who's doing this, but rather than the Phoenix. But the Phoenix is allowing it because, its host is Jean Grey.
yeah,
And as she's reunited with her sister, the in-betweener comes in and starts fighting the Phoenix, and obviously the Phoenix is more powerful than an in-betweener. And then the craziest thing is happening as she's, trying to tell the in-betweener, I'm not going to get rid of him. Six cosmic entities come in to challenge Jean Grey. Now, most of them probably would not be able to stop the Phoenix Force, but there are two that I feel like would give her a run for the money. And the ones that would be are the Living Tribunal and Oblivion. I feel like those two would give her a run for her money. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're kind of on the same level in power as Phoenix for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
and she has to face both of them and these other six entities, and I'm like, shit, this is not good. Not good at all.
kind of, yeah, kind of wild. I mean, Jean Grey's and I think both Jean Grey and Storm have just been elevated to god status.
Oh yeah,
You
easily.
know,
But
so yeah, yeah,
well,
that's
here's
wild.
here's a crazy thing. So she's like, hey, this is the different hosts of the Phoenix coming to help Jean Grey fight. You got Hope Summers, you got Fong Wu, you got Rachel Summers, and you got Rook Shiai, and then a Quantin, who are like five other
Quentin
hosts of the
Quire.
Phoenix from different. Thank you. I couldn't say that properly. and then five other, hosts. And I'm like, crap, I had no idea these people were hosts of the Phoenix. So I'm looking for an all-out battle next issue.
Yeah, sounds like it's leading up. Leading up.
Oh yeah.
Let me go ahead and we'll do like main universe and then jump into the ultimates. But I've been reading the X-Men comics. Have you touched on any of the X-Men?
Other than
Uncanny,
Ultimate
X-Men, or
Wolverine,
Exceptional?
no, I
Okay.
did not catch up on those.
So in X-Men 20, this is Cyclops' team. We get to see Cyclops kind of confronting Agent Lundqvist because he kind of told him this mutant was dead, and then there's television footage of that mutant being alive, helping save this Alaskan town. Uh, they're kind of the rest of the team is trying to salvage the wreckage of the Marauder 2. Quentin says, there's a psychic core within the Marauder, and it activated it and connected to it psychically, and it's trying to rebuild itself. Um,
Oh.
they Lundquist found out that 3K is turning humans into mutants, and then that's when they
Oh.
start to confront Cyclops and they start to fight. They end up getting arrested because they're fighting, and Cyclops lives in this Alaskan town, doesn't want to start shit, so they both end up getting arrested. They continue their kind of conversation in opposing cells. But there's a lot of different personal conversations too between Psylocke and Tempest, where they talk about like love and how they're kind of like love people on opposite teams or on opposite sides. There's Beast and Jen. Jen's like this mutant who got her powers activated. That one of the humans that got turned into a mutant essentially, and she kind of had a physical transformation like Beast, where she has wings, scales. She has the ability to kind of change her form almost, kind of like Husk, but with animals, kind of like Beast Boy in a way. She's like
Okay.
a certain amalgamation of two.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then Lutton, Fisk, and Cyclops kind of have their conversation too, because Cyclops thinks Lutton just hates humans, but he just really hates Cyclops. It's like, no, 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 no. He thinks Love just hates mutants, but Love says, no, no, no. I hate you. You're the one. You're the biggest pain in the ass mutant I have to deal with. Essentially, is what his deal is. Because he's like a government agent, and Cyclops, has just kind of been one step ahead. In the next issue, so that was issue 20 and 21, Jen and Quentin kind of have a conversation because Jen's thinking so loudly that Quentin picks it up psychically, and he's like, hey, can you shut up? He's like, I've been sitting up here quiet. It's like, no, your mind's screaming to me. So she kind of opens up about how before she was a mutant, she kind of felt like nothing and invisible, and that she left her home but doesn't even know if anybody's really noticed. She feels Beast kind of pulling away and wants to help Beast because she feels like Beast helped her. Magic kind of interrupts them that they found the Upstarts. The Upstarts are a mutant team led by Trevor Fitzroy, who is kind of like under the employment of Sugarman, who is like this displaced mutant from the Age of Apocalypse timeline who experiments on mutants. And he
Oh.
wants to find out how they turned humans into mutants. He kind of took down the psychic defenses that he put up for Fitzroy so that way the X-Men can track him through Psylocke. They get into a fight. Jen kind of goes berserk, and then they get the upper hand, and we find out that Sugarman has escaped to Araco, which I'm pretty sure is like
Oh,
the Apocalypse stronghold on Mars.
that's crazy.
So that's all happening, and there's an event called Age of Revelation that's happening as well that we should probably add to our reading list. Um, and that's the first X-Men team. The second X-Men team is we'll go with Exceptional X-Men. They're based in New York. They're with Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost. They're kind of like walking through a park. They find this magic swirly thing, and a villain pops out named Tank, who's essentially Ironheart villain. But Ironheart's guest
Oh.
starring in this as she makes an appearance and helps try to fight Tank. Right? Um, it turns out the magic swirly, they thought it was Tank, but Tank just found the portal, and his abilities tie into space-time manipulation. So he's just kind of been using them. But it turns out
Oh.
Riri and Bronze know each other from barbecues and cookouts. I'm like, are they trying to say all black people know each other through barbecues and cookouts? What's going on here? But they have like a little bonding moment where it's like, oh yeah, I know your grandmother. And Tank ends up escaping because he can use the portals. Riri helps him investigates and starts investigating the portals as the adult X-Men, Emma Frost, Kitty Pride and Iceman kind of throw the kids a 1 year anniversary party of being like a team, being X Men. Kitty kind of freaks out. She has an existential crisis, questioning her life choices. Um, there's something to do with the portals being tied to emotions, and Kitty accidentally falls through one of these portals. Turns out the portal being connected to space time is a portal that sent Kitty back in time. They're
Oh
debating
God.
on who should go back in time to try and find adult Kitty. They suggest not to have the adult X-Men. Convenient. Here's some like writing, kind of like, really, this is how you're gonna play it. They send the young kids back in time through the portal. They find out that the portal is actually being done by a mutant who's coming into their powers, who happens to have a crush on Bronze, or Bronze has a crush on him.
Oh.
It's like, young teenage love type of deal. They're attacked by Sentinels. One of the
Oh.
Sentinels goes through the portal that they use to send the kids through. So now there's a rogue advanced Sentinel, three children X-Men, teenager X-Men, trying to find existential crisis Kitty Pride. And then
Dear
the first person
Lord.
they meet is young Kitty.
Oh God. That is a whole lot of kitty and a whole
Yup.
bunch of
Really
craziness.
well, they really are focusing on her in a lot of, because there's a series right now with her and Wolverine, and it's going back in time to when Wolverine trained her to kind of be an assassin.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, there was a time, and like that's why she has like this existential crisis, because she's like, I was kind of like taught to kill people by Wolverine. I mean, they have a good relationship, but it's like, she's doubting some of the choices she made because it like led her to here.
Mm,
Now,
I
Uncanny
see.
X-Men, that has three issues, or three issues of 17, 18, and 19. And basically there's this new movie out that portrays mutants as a killer, and it's kind of like a Scream. It's like
Oh,
a horror movie. And the Young Mutants are kind of discussing how society perceives them through this movie. Uh there's like this diner that gets taken over. Jubilee has to go and save the diner because she's kind of the one that brought the attention to the diner. There's
oh,
the actress is like named Mutina, and she seems to have some sort of psychic powers because she's haunting one of the X-Men, the younger X-Men.
oh.
And there's like this festival that happens. I mean, it's kind of like just little exposition about the team and their dynamic. They have a friendship festival. The mayor of Louisiana, or New Orleans, wants to kind of rebrand a part of Bourbon District and Bourbon Street for mutants to try and harbor peace. But there's also capitalizing on their personalities and personas. They want a Jubilee dance
Oh.
club, for example. They want like a Gambit Creole restaurant type of deal or something like that. And Jubilee, they fight off Deadpool and Outlaw. They kind of are there
What?
to, well, they're there. They end up shooting first, asking questions later. Ultimately, it's to tell them that there's trouble at the diner. That's when Jubilee goes to the diner, uh, messes up these like this gang. I don't know, like this nepo baby son or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like there's you get to learn more about the characters, but nothing really crazy moves forward plot wise. And that's what's
Interesting.
been going on with the X-Men. What about your favorite X-Men, Storm?
Yeah, Storm's been going pretty crazy. So you have all these thunder gods like Zeus, Beta Ray Bill, some other ones throughout mythology are all like, okay, how many of us want to go a war with joining Hadon's army, going against the one above all, or joining Storm? All of them but Beta Ray Bill, like, yeah, we'll join Hadad. And the Beta Ray Bill's like, are you guys not thunder gods? Are you not gonna, stand up to this Hadad? And then as soon as that happens, Hadad just starts wiping all of them out. He's like, there can only be either Hadan or no one else. And this guy's just
Idiots.
riding. Dude,
That's
he's
what they
just
get.
riding on a black winter, just like riding it like a horse, just standing on top of it. And you probably know enough about black winters and how powerful they are. He's just like making them and standing on it, using it as a stallion. And then we see Storm fighting Eternity, whose, brother, or sorry, sister, is looking for her brother. Oh no, she's fighting
Oblivion.
Infinity, and Eternity is inside of Storm using, her power and vice versa.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're all getting ready to fight Hadad, and like Galactus is like, hey, all these folks are gonna be fighting all these different, Black Winters and all these other huge threats. So you're gonna be by yourself fighting Hadad, the one who killed multi-level versal cosmic entities, and you're gonna have to fight him. And pretty much the crazy thing about that is that we had Eternity go talk to the one above all, asking him to please talk to him about the fate of the universe. And, being a giant, all knowing, all powerful God, just looking at him in his golden form and starts chatting. And I'm like, excited to see how that plays out with the both of them talking about defeating Hadad.
Okay, so both the Phoenix and Storm comics kind of ramping up to their big confrontations with the
Yep.
multiversal gods that are challenging these mutants from the 60s and 70s.
Yep. Pretty much.
Nice. Let's go ahead and jump into Wolverine and Ultimate Wolverine. Um,
Yeah.
Now, in Wolverine, we had to another fight with Sabretooth.
Yep.
He's remembering the night that he killed his father. He kind of needs to stop holding back in front of his mom to get Sabretooth. That involves like biting a chunk out of him. And underneath it all, Wolverine still remembers when he was a kid and asks his mom why she left him. But it turns out the mom's mastermind. And then moving it, who's essentially, um, mastermind since the fall of Krakoa has found a deeper understanding in in his powers and his illusions. And while he's not psychic, he's able to delve into the personal mind palace in a way and not necessarily influence their mind, but understand the mind well enough to make his illusions more powerful. To the point where he's been able to trick Wolverine into his smell, his sight, his sound, everything tricked. But the only thing that kind of gives him away is when he like mentions finding his friends. He never mentioned the X-Men, but she mentioned the X-Men, which is Mastermind giving away that he is Mastermind. Wolverine breaks out of the trap, ends up defeating freaking Mastermind, but then questions reality. Ends up at
Existential
the end, he's like, I
crisis.
don't even know what's real anymore, man. And it's like, damn, dude, Wolverine can't catch a break, bro.
Nope. I mean, when you're 200 plus years old and you got so many villains, yeah, I would question reality too if I was in that situation.
Yeah, dude. It's it's rough. And he's like going through it's like, I've fought through mind control before. I know how to tell. And then he's like, fuck, Mastermind's upgraded his abilities, and now I can't even tell. I don't even know what real is anymore. How do I do this?
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. I do not feel envious.
And then in Ultimate Wolverine, he's kind of like getting geared up for a mission. He's kind of like monologuing about rituals of
Hmm.
rebirth and stuff like
Yep.
that and being reborn. And he's basically on a strike team on a mission to free mutants with Gambit, Sprite, who's Kitty Pride, Black Widow, Abigail Brand, Beast Wolverine, and Red Guardian. Gotta say, the red and black and white suit for Wolverine looks dope. I love his Winter
Oh yeah.
Soldier kind of fit. Um, Kitty Pryde goes to scout. She comes back kind of terrified because all the guards are already found dead. They
Yep.
find Warren Worthington, Archangel, in the center around all these dead people. He freaks out, kills Beast, kills Abigail Brand pretty much immediately on sight. And he's kind of like got four wings coming out of him, kind of like the angels from Seven Deadly Sins or whatever, with the wings on the
Yeah.
top and the bottom. And he ends up like just murdering people, and that's what we know about Warren Worthington. What do you think about Wolverine and Ultimate Wolverine?
I really liked Ultimate Wolverine, just kind of like the manga style type of like facial expression and the beard. I thought that was actually a really cool design for Ultimate Wolverine. But him being so grizzled as the Winter Soldier going in and start slicing up Archangel and cutting him, stabbing him, trying to beat him to calm him down, that was all cool. But the fact that Beast just dies right off the rip, I'm like, bro, come on, give
I
our
thought he
dude a
just lost
little
an
bit more
eye,
screen
and then
time.
I like
Yeah, I
reread it,
thought
and
he
I'm like,
lost an
oh,
eye.
he straight up
He's
died.
fucking dead. He's just dead. I was like,
Unless they
oh,
have an
come on, man.
elixir in this universe, but who knows how his fucked up power works, or if he's an experiment, he's just loaded into a gun to heal people or something. It's like, oh no, we just stuffed him in here. Like, oh
Dude,
man.
yeah, I just can only imagine how awful all these other mutants are going to be if Archangel's that deranged and that bad.
Right? Well, we've hit our hour
Oof.
mark. We didn't get to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man or the Ultimates, but we'll save that for another time. If you're listening in, thank you so much. Go ahead and give a like, comment, and subscribe. We'll read our comments one day, maybe sometime ever. But we truly
Eh.
appreciate people tuning in, and let us know what you think about your favorite comic book reads. This is Joshua Awesome. Peace.